They say silence speaks louder than words, but that morning, it was the sound of coffee hitting cotton that made the world stop. It happened in a little cafe on the corner of Elmont and Rose, the kind with sun-faded curtains and cinnamon baked into the walls. Locals called it Cora's, a quiet place where people knew your order and your seat. And every Wednesday at 8:15 sharp, a soft-spoken woman named Miss Nadine would walk in, sit at the second booth near the window, and sip her black coffee with one sugar, no cream. Never cream. Now, Nadine wasn't loud. She wasn't flashy. She wore the same gray sneakers, the same floral scarf tucked into her coat, always with a notebook under her arm. Most folks in town just called her sweet retired schoolteacher. Widow, raised 3 kids, never caused a stir. But that day, someone decided to stir her anyway. Deputy Rick Halter, tall, smug, badge on his chest like it came with a scepter. He walked in, saw Nadine in his usual seat, and smiled that tight-lipped cop smile that says, "I'm about to ruin your day," and call it justice. "You mind moving, ma'am?" he asked. All polite poison. Nadine looked up, not scared, not angry, just calm. "I've been sitting here every Wednesday for 4 years. The cafe went still. You could hear forks stop midair. And then, without warning, Rick picked up her coffee, tilted it, and poured it slowly down the front of her blouse. No yelling, no slap, just the hiss of hot liquid and the click of a spoon somewhere in the distance. And Nadine, she didn't scream. She just looked at him like she'd seen this man before. Not his face, but his type. Then she stood, wiped her hands, and said something so soft you'd miss it if you weren't listening. "You just made a mistake," Rick laughed. "Oh yeah, gonna call your husband." "No," she said, setting her napkin down. "I don't need to call anyone." That's when a teenager near the pastry case raised his phone and caught the shot that would blow up everything. Behind Nadine, pinned to the community bulletin board, was a photo of the town's new police chief, Langston Hale, a black man in uniform, with a caption underneath, proudly raised by Nadine Walker. Yeah, that happened. By lunchtime, the video was everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, your cousin's group chat, #coffee. Cop wasn't just a joke. It was rage. Quiet rage. The kind that comes after years of swallowing injustice in public spaces, of watching your elders humiliated and having to smile through it. But Langston, he didn't smile. He didn't hold a press conference. Didn't call for calm. He just walked into headquarters, called in Deputy Halter, and handed him a sealed envelope. "This badge," he said, tapping his chest, "doesn't protect cowards." And that should have been the end of it. Right. But nah, it was just the beginning. Because when Langston started digging, he found more old complaints, buried reports. One from a young Latina officer who once saw Halter berate an elderly man and lie on the citation. No one believed her, until now. Twist. That officer, Elena Cruz, walked into his office that week and said, "Maybe now we've got a shot." And Langston nodded. Then, "Help me make it real," of course. Not everyone liked it. Some officers walked out, some called it politics. Someone even keyed traitor into Langston's car. And the mayor, she tried to muzzle the reforms. Appoint a review committee. Langston didn't flinch. "You wanted change." He told her, "Well, this is what it costs." And Nadine. She never raised her voice, but she showed up at protests, at meetings, even on local TV once, wearing that same scarf. When someone asked, "Do you think this will actually change anything?" she paused, then said, "It already has. You're here. Aren't you the last scene?" Langston standing at the town hall, surrounded by kids and elders, folks holding signs that read truth over tradition. A little girl raised her hand and asked, "Did your mom get justice?" Langston knelt beside her, smiled gently, and said, "She got something better, she got heard." And maybe that's where justice starts, not with a courtroom or a gavel, but with a quiet voice that refuses to be erased. So, now it's your turn. What would you have done if you were in that cafe? Was silence stronger than shouting? Does justice only matter when it's loud? Tell us what you think down in the comments, because sometimes the conversation is the change.